Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Derek Kruger, and I'm here with Scott Gregory. He is the editor of a book called Down the Rabbit Hole. Scott, what's going on, man?
Hey, good to meet you, Derek.
Hey,
To be with you and hang out here to have a talk about dreams and rabbit holes and
Heck
stuff
yeah,
like that.
I'm excited, man. I love the dream stuff. So,
Yeah.
All right, so this book, Down the Rabbit Hole.
Okay.
Explain to me a little bit about this idea for it, just how it kind of came to be.
Well, I've been teaching the course for about 8 years at college, and I was approached by Cognella Publishing about creating a book for the class. And we wanted something that we could print on demand, something we could use consistently, because we've had trouble in the past before with books. Textbooks go in and out of print, or not so much textbooks. It's difficult to find one source of material for this particular class. We want to cover a lot of different theories, from classic to contemporary. And we find some of the stuff that's out there is excellent, but it's aimed for like postgraduate work, for people who are professional therapists. Or we have on the other side, we have the kind of dumbed down, that's not fair to say, but I'll say it anyway, dumbed down, sort of coffee table stuff that tells you what your dream means. So we wanted to create something in between, something that would be accessible to students, that we could complement with lecture-based material in one book.
I know at one point you were using like 3 for a class.
Yeah, we had several books, and so we were aiming at an affordable, one-source kind of thing that we could continue to sell. We update as needed. The other problem we had was sometimes we had an excellent book, but it would go out of print and become unavailable after a couple of years, which is kind of the normal course for a lot of books that are sort of a niche market like this.
Mm-hmm. So it's always republishing, it's always...
We can print on demand, we can update as necessary.
Which is amazing.
We're currently in the first edition, and we're thinking about update, maybe a second edition down the road a little bit, but for now we're stable.
Well, I feel that makes it cheaper for you guys, right? The less... It's kind
there
of
are less
valuable,
books to buy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing we tried to do was to use online resources that are already available. So we've written brief introductions for some of those sections. The stuff from 1990s and on is often available digitally, and most of the people who read this book are affiliated with a college or university. They're students or professors, or they've been to school. Maybe they've still have online accounts or things that are accessible through the college's library, online resources. So part of the book, first part of the book is the reprinted material. So previously published stuff dating back from the early 1900s, middle 1900s, 1960s or so, and then we get into the more modern stuff, which is accessible through the online resources. So we tried, keeping in mind, one of the key things we had in mind was to make the book affordable.
Which is great.
And relevant as well, too. Is we find a lot of the modern theories are pushbacks against, especially Freud and some of the others. But what they don't tell us in the modern or contemporary stuff is what they're pushing it back against. And we find that even though there's a rejection of some of the classical stuff, that we're still using many of the same approaches, we just renamed them or reframed them.
Gotcha.
So I think by establishing a foundation in the classical approaches, that we can kind of cherry pick our way through it too. What's really most accessible and usable. Jung says what's real is what works.
That's awesome.
So what we can actually use out of this material as we go into the contemporary stuff.
Yeah.
And we find that the classic theories and contemporary theories are really complementary. We don't have to reject one or the other. We might reject bits and pieces of some.
They intermingle quite well.
They intermingle quite well, and even like the depth psychological stuff, the Freud and Jung, and the existential, they're really not antithetical. They're not against each other. They really commingle and work together really well. So part of the design of this book is to show how we can start with theories like Freud, work through Jung and some of his approaches to amplification, active imagination, and we step into the existential approach with existential being. And of course, your favorite, the empty chair.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that prepares us then to look at the onslaught of modern science, laboratory research, and how a lot of this gets reframed and usable in the cognitive theories. But then we also see toward the end kind of the pushback of the cognitive science, people against like an interpretation of dreams and into something that's more science evidence based.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, now the thing with this process is you have to be really vulnerable, right? Like if you're not kind of open, it's not going to work as well.
It definitely won't work as well if you're not more open to it. And I talk with my students about being a skeptic rather than cynical. That the skeptic is science. The proper attitude for scientists is to be skeptic. Show me. And as we step through this and say, you provide some evidence to whether or not this works for you, whether it's acceptable to you, whether it makes any sense, or the real thing is, does it work? The cynical part, we do find students that are cynical. I wonder, well, what's the purpose of taking the class if your whole thing is just about pushing it out the window and saying it's junk? Don't spoil the field for the rest of us.
Be open.
Be open to it. We find that initially a lot of students are fairly closed, or at least they're not willing to be vulnerable, which is totally understandable. A lot of young people coming out of high school, you've got your persona intact, or what you have as a persona out of high school, and you don't want to damage that. You don't want to take it away. But we also find that that's limiting. Without experience of the world, without looking into ourselves, mining the shadow for gold, as the Jungians might say, or looking into what sort of things we're avoiding in life, what bits and pieces of unfinished business that trap us in the past.
Yeah, that's kind of essentially what it is what are you avoiding?
What are you avoiding? Yeah, we're often avoiding being in the present. So that's another key piece of the work that we do in the Rabbit Hole book, is that everything is aimed about working in the present. Though the past isn't past, it's still with us. It shows up now in the way we act, the way we adapt or fail to adapt, the things that we avoid. They're all indicators, and the dream just kind of brings a lot of that to the surface. And it brings it in a way that's symbolic or thematic. It's part of the thing with dreams is to learn different ways to read the dream, read the materials. And we don't take the dream literally, as though this is actually what the story is. Because a lot of times, one student that came to class, and his dream was about a flying dog with blood dripping off its fangs, and it was kind of farting fire at the back end.
Oh my God.
So I've never encountered one of those dreams or one of those dogs. Let's say, let's not take it literally, let's break it down.
Well, and that's the thing with some of these books, the coffee table books.
Yeah.
They say dog means this, which there's a million different dogs out there. Like when I think of a dog, I think of a Welsh Corgi or a Wiener dog.
Or a Siberian Husky.
Yeah. So that dog can't mean that for everybody.
Right, and what does it mean to you? You might have had a favorite Welsh Corgi, and you may have one that chewed up all your shoes and pooped in your oatmeal or something.
Exactly,
The different feelings you have towards the dog.
Yep.
So another thing we make apparent very early in the book is the difference between working with signs and working with symbols. So a sign has a fixed meaning. It doesn't require interpretation, and often can get us in trouble if we try to interpret it. The idea of a sign is it's fixed. And so we see it, we all know what it means.
Exactly.
Whereas a symbol points to possibilities. And they can be anywhere from the personal level to the cultural level to the archetypal or collective level. And just knowing which one applies at what time.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So neat. I'm so excited to dive in and get to... We're going to talk about the rabbit holes next. So instead of chapters...
we use a rabbit hole. So we have a down and in and up and out. So we're going down the rabbit hole, we're going to peer around, look at the different theories, and we'll come out and see how we can apply them to our own dreams or dreams of others, and kind of make an applied attempt at this, not just a theoretical, but actually to apply the material.
It's awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited to get into it.
Good. I'm excited too. Let's see what
Thanks,
happens.
Scott.
Hey, you're
Excited.
welcome. Good.